It's that time of the league where I get to make a free video talking about all the league stars that performed well. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty much almost nearly exactly what I expected. Maybe I would have tiered some builds having higher popularity than others, but it is about where I would expect every one of these to be. And I'm just doing this so people can have like a nice idea of maybe another build they want to do, or how they're faring up, or people may be struggling on their build. And I'll be giving, a little bit of pointers for some of them, pointing out some common complaints that I've been reading on the Path of Exile build subreddit. I've been seeing in my chat and hearing from my community, and just like seeing from, the overall community at large. I've got some examples of all the builds here, right? One for each of the ones I'm talking about. So we'll be going through Lightning Strike, Archmage, Power Siphon, right? Like the Locus mines, Gladiator, Bleed Glad, Frostblades Slayer, Hit Deadeye, Molten Strike Zenith, Power Siphon mines. I got two of these just because I thought it was funny. And then a Slammer. I'll just show my own. That was one that I played. And I feel like I did a pretty good job. Okay. First off, though, we see the Ascendancy breakdowns. PoE Ninja has like rare gear now. I don't know how much I like this. I guess it's kind of nice just for the options. Although it does feel kind of silly that like, wow, 86% of the player base is using rare rings. Like all of them are right there. But yeah, it is what it is. Better option. More options are generally better. So, shout out to them. We got Slayer, Glad, Archmage, Hierophant. I see Hierophant as Archmage. Trickster, Jug, Deadeye, right? Like all of this, I pretty much expect. Berserker is pretty low, but that's just compared to Jug. But when we go into slams, Berserker has like a 50% play rate on both of those, with Jug being like the lowest. So this is mainly just going to be exclusively Molten Strike of the Zenith gamers. Lots of those dudes, or those people leveling that character, getting ready for the Molten Strike Zenith swap. And then, of course, we have like, some of the stinky ascendancies like Saboteur is in a weird, really, really weird spot where you don't even play mines on Sabo anymore. Like, you just play them on Trickster. Assassin, some people just like it. I don't know, you get to crit and all that. I think you do Assassin for Viper Strike of the Mamba builds. Ascendant's already always in a weird spot until we start getting into like the end game, when you want all those extra passives and that easy access to jewel sockets and whatnot. And then Elementalist, of course, like being top side of the tree, being an Elementalist, like it's going to be quite the struggle to build some adequate defense on those. But let's get into the actual builds. So number one is Lightning Strike Slayer. All the Ascendancies seem to perform well. I'll just talk about Slayer. But Warden seemed like it's going really well for a lot of people, right? You get all the access to all the fun little memes there. You get Hoarfrost for all of the freezing and whatnot. You get a punch of damage. People are doing some tincture stuff, and tinctures are really, really good. I don't have an example up, except on the Gladiator. He's using a tincture. I thought that was really cute and a good idea, or extra single target. But for Slayer, the only thing that I've heard is that some people following Fub's setup were feeling a little bit squishy. And to them, I'd say like, no crap. And that's not like a slight against Fub. That's just how he'll build the build and how he'll play the build, right? When you're like the zoomy player, you are like of this mindset and you understand like, I'm playing fast and I'm playing loose. So when I'm in a hairy situation, I'm like spurging around, I'm, like doing intermittent attacks and like bouncing around. Like it's hard to describe, but when you're playing like these zoomy builds, you have an understanding of what is dangerous, what boss abilities that you need to get out of. A lot of the time it's like, you're going to attack, stutter boom, frostblink boom, whirling blades, right? Like it's going to be a lot of stuff like this on like the map bosses for your progression, or while you're clearing legions, like you kind of understand how to move your character to dodge a lot of these deadly abilities, and how to like play a fast build like this. And a lot of people just don't have that like prerequisite knowledge of just like being an absolute like spurg on the screen, of like constantly moving and constantly dodging and constantly like, like don't let the whatever hit you, like here comes whatever, you're gonna have to bait the poison little droplet, right? Like all this stuff like that. But this guy right here, All of that is not to say that you have to play Squishy Slayer. I feel like this guy right here did a pretty good job of finding a little bit of a balance. I'd maybe change some things around. But whereas a lot of people will just kind of like rely on endurance charge, fortify, and evasion rating, a little bit of physical damage reduction, maybe some fizz shift, goes a really long way. And so what this guy has here, obviously suppression, he's got the melee hit fortify implicit there, so he has fortification, which is really good. And then he's got some physical damage reduction and a little bit of PDR and some armor alongside your endurance charges goes a really, really long way, right? Just endurance charges and fortify is probably going to feel lacking for a lot of people. So getting that little bit of armor, I think he's running Determ. That might be like a little bit too far. I don't know if I'd even run Determ at this point. But just like the granite, getting increased armor somewhere, having a granite flask, having like good hybrid bases, getting PDR on your physical damage reduction on your body armor, and you could even get some physical damage reduction on a shield too, right? He's running the shield here, but he does have on the shield reduced extra damage from crits, which is really nice because I don't think he's going to have any armor masteries for that 30%, but he probably will have a crit mastery. And that crit mastery, let's see if he even took it. I don't even know. No, he has the, yeah, I mean, you got to have the increase effect of non-damage elements. Yeah, you know, if he wanted to be whatever, if he's doing some juicy stuff, making sure he doesn't get one shot. I mean, he already hit level 100, so he's totally fine, right? But getting like some reduced extra damage from crits, getting some PDR, getting some armor, all this goes a really long way. And you could even go as far as getting fizz shift on your body armor and your helmet. If he can solve mana without this reservation, then he can replace that with the Eater mod. And if he can get fortify from something like this little wheel here, Rampart, you know, it is some extra points, but, you know, just give up a little bit of damage, and now you can have another 10 fizz shift here. Now, that might be unnecessary. Obviously, he had 100. He's totally vibing, right? But these are just things that you could take and you could add or, you know, modify onto your build too. But yeah, not like it just goes a really long way to layer it a little bit more, right? But I thought this was a pretty good example. And Lightning Strike seems to be going real well. It's just like a comfy playstyle. You get returning projectiles and all of that. You get like a nice claw. You're zooming around. You know, you're just like whirling blading around. And that's why the taming was so expensive. It's just because everybody's blasting on this. All right, next build, Archmage. Archmage is a fantastic league starter and has been going well for a lot of people. As soon as they got out of Merc Lab prison, as soon as they got out there, I've heard only good things. Some people were having problems with some of their defenses and whatnot, but that's really more of a caring about your gear and capping your suppression, getting this fizz shift on your body armor from Eater. Like, this is big. You know, this is one of the few sources of easy fizz shift that you can obtain without having to do stuff like giving up a shield or having a rare helmet. Getting that goes a long way. Getting some max res, right? This guy's, he's got capped suppression. He's got a lot of evasion rating. And he has a really big pool, right? 4K life, 4K ES, and 8.9K mana. He's got Orias, that's cool. He's got a Light of Meaningless, right, for max mana. He's got ailment avoidance. That's another really huge part of having a comfortable defense setup, is not getting shocked, so you're not taking huge spikes of damage, not getting ignited, so that you have this dot ticking on you all the time, not getting frozen or chilled, so you're not just like standing there, you know, eating extra spells or attacks or whatever it is. That is a really big part of it. So, one cute thing that this guy has, aside from this amulet, right? This amulet's really kind of nuts, right? He got suppressed high roll and 5 max res high roll, and like he got is crazy. Okay, he got very lucky. I imagine he got this from his own T17 maps. But aside from this, this helmet is crazy. I don't know why this is allowed to have the more damage that melee got. It feels a little bit unfair. I feel scammed as a melee man. When spellcasters also get to use all of the rage, and especially Archmage, as if it already didn't have enough damage. Archmage gets to use this helmet and get 30% more spell damage. And I've seen people corrupt these helmets to get lightning damage leached as life. And so now you can get your leech and 30% more damage in a slot. And you know what? It's got some strength on top as well, just to make sure that you don't have any problems as a spellcaster equipping any of the gems that you may need. But yeah, TLDR, Archmage is solid. Just give a little bit of a care about your gear, and your defenses should go a really long way. All right, the next build. Excuse me, Hexblast. Hexblast performing very well. A lot of people do this as like a T17 rusher and a Sanctum runner. If you look at Pewee Ninja, you'll see a lot of people doing this silly little thing here. This is literally just like, I just want to go. I am maximizing my divs per hour. I need move speed. And so they just get a bunch of move speed and Enkindle Orbit to get even more. They do stuff like Restless Ward because they get move speed per frenzy charge. And they get a lot of frenzy charges and whatnot. They get those 2 max frenzies off of Trickster with all the duration. And then they also do stuff like Charged Mines to get frenzy charge generation. And then they just run around. They're zooming really fast. They have a lot of damage. Pretty easy play style. This guy's doing he's doing more memes, right, with an Animate Guardian and Specters, because he's probably just blasting Sanctum, and you know, there's some, I'm sure there's some combo here, right? You're just adding some move speed stuff. There's a few things where it's like grants allies like 10 or 20. You know, they're just doing it because it's Sanctum, and all you got to do is move to the next room quickly. If you want a more mapping setup, you know, definitely check out an actual build guide for it instead of just Pewee Ninja profiles strictly built for Sanctum. You see he's got like no life, very low ES. He has some evasion rating, not cap suppression, but that's just Sanctum, right? When you're Hexblast, throw all your mines. They detonate only when a monster spawns. And so you can have your automation linked to detonate mines, which will just trigger your mines anytime a monster gets in their radius. And so that's like, it's a really easy playstyle for Sanctum. Definitely would do a different setup. I think like life stacking, I think, is what most other Hexblasters would do if you're going to do something like T17. I'm not entirely sure though. Just make sure you check out the guides and whatnot, if you actually want to do something other than Sanctum. But yeah, Hexblast, who would have thought? It's a great build. Okay, Bleed Gladiator. This is one that I've heard some complaints about, but mainly the complaints I've heard about are that Lacerate of Hemorrhage as a clear ability in maps, and more specifically, once you've cleared your Atlas and you're starting to do maps that have a lot of monsters in them, a lot of pack size, you're adding a lot of mechanics. While you're clearing the Atlas, it's probably not too much of a deal at all, right? But it's softcore trade. You're going to do that. You're going to start being able to like buy some scarabs after you do a whatever strat to afford, you know, some mapping supplies and upgrades. You buy some scarabs, you start juicing stuff, you start getting big juicy packs. Your maps have a lot of monsters, and the Lacerate, from what I've heard, some people say fell off a little bit more than they would have wanted. And so for them, I would recommend doing the Spectral Shield Throw setup. That seems to have gone really well. Just for clear, your damage is going to be a lot worse, but you get to leverage the new retaliation skill gems to try and fix your damage a little bit. And you can go even one step further. And this is really just for like tanky rares, you know, the one odd tanky rare or the map boss that you just want to kill. But doing a tincture like this seems kind of crazy. So you have 144 increased damage with bleeding from weapons. That alone is already just pretty nuts. And then on top of that, you have 43 dot multi with melee weapon attacks. Okay, and 35 effect. Like, this is really bananas. So this is actually like, what is that going to be? This is going to be like 190 increased damage with bleeding, and then another like 50 some odd, right? Like almost 60 dot multi. Like, this is insane for a button press. Okay, this is better than War Banner. This is better than like, this is better than so many buttons that other people are pressing. And it's temporary because of the mana burn stuff. Actually, Isn't this guy blood magic? Oh, no, 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 he's not. He's not blood magic. I was going to say, I don't know how that works with blood magic. I feel like you'd need the tincture mastery, which I looked and he didn't have one. Scratch that. Yeah, no, this is just a great damage button. And combined with like something like Crushing Fist and some of the retaliation nodes, you got Fist of War, you've got Maim, you know, he's using it to maim as well. And because he doesn't have the bleeding you inflict is aggravated, he's taken the attack hits aggravate any bleeding on target older than 4 seconds. And so he's also got he's got another mastery, retaliation, increased duration of ailments inflicted by retaliation skills. So he gets a long bleed. It takes a little bit. 4 seconds is a little bit long, I'll be real. But, you know, 4 seconds, if the boss dies pretty much right after you do that, that's totally worth it. I've seen some people use the boots as well for treating enemies as moving if they have an elemental ailment on them. There's some cute little memes you can do with that, and Venom Puncture. Someone linked me that pob. You know, Jack the Axe is just a nice little upgrade, a decent budget weapon. And then, of course, he's got like Suppress and Fizz Shift here, combined with some armor, a decent amount of life. You know, more surprise, he could get some Fizz Shift here as well. Or he could get PDR on his shield and his body armor if he felt like he needed it. He's got more on his helmet there. This guy's probably feeling pretty comfortable with some max res, whatever endurance charges he's got, and some big old block and suppress. He's probably feeling real comfy. And I think so. You know, he's level 97. It's probably going to blast on to 100 and it won't be too hard. It's got, you know, ailment immunity too. So it seems like, you know, with stuff like this, all you've really got to do is try to solve your damage. Now, he might be doing the Garatha Retaliate meme because he's actually got a lot of Retaliate skills here. And that is a cute little thing to check out, right? Go check out Garatha's Retaliation build. He's got like some cute setup on YouTube. And it sounds kind of fun, you know, some Retaliation. It's maybe a little bit more brain on than some people would prefer. But it's got a lot of damage. And it seems like it's pretty comfortable. So go ahead and check that out if you want a little bit different playstyle, but don't want to have to like, you know, re-level an entire character. All right, here we've got Frostblades Slayer. Frostblades Slayer is the Catman. So, you know, I would expect it to be pretty good. And it seems like it is. He's having a blast. A lot of people are having a blast on this. I haven't heard any bad things about this, right? Like, you know, you get Fortify, you got endurance charges, you got a body armor with some PDR open there. You're going to get Suppress. His shield has max res. He could have opted for a hybrid base or an armor base and got some PDR there, or get some reduced extra damage from crits, right? Like rare shields actually do provide a lot of damage mitigation now. So take advantage of that, right? Don't use your rare shield. You know, don't think of it like a caster where it's like, I get spell damage and +1. No, man. You can get max res, reduced extra damage from crits, and physical damage reduction, and big suppression. Like, shields are huge now if you care, and that's all you need to do to get some defense. You just have to care about your gear. And then the only other cute thing, right? Relicash, whatever. You know, expensive plus Arden's Anguish. You know, it's just like a lot of damage. But one cute, cheap thing, aside from the corruptions here, is these gloves that give you a chance when you hit to gain rage, when you gain rage on hit, to instead gain up to your max rage. This is probably necessary for builds that don't have good rage gen, which would be things that aren't using war cries or that don't invest heavily into rage, loss, and all of that stuff, or like staving that off the extra second and all that. Because as soon as you don't hit something for a few seconds, your rage depletes at 10 per second, which is really fast. And if you only have a very small amount of rage generation, then it's going to take you a really long time to get back to 30. So instead, you can get a pair of gloves like this, eventually corrupted with Max Frenzy, which pairs perfectly with Slayer for that Frenzy and Endurance Charge node. It's perfect. And then, you know, you do like 5 attacks and you're at max rage, instead of having to do many, many, many more to reach all the way back up to 30. It's just an instant ramp. You know, it's not a POB option. It's a real life option. One last thing is this build probably feels a lot tankier than you may expect just because of the +6 meters to melee strike range. This can hit from so far away that you are just like striking everything. You don't have to be in any danger. You're just boom, boom, boom. You're just shooting things with all that strike range. And that probably makes this also feel a lot more comfortable alongside all of the other, nice and easy options there. I forgot to grab a Righteous Fire POB, and I'm not going to try to scrounge through PoE Ninja quick. I just noticed that now. But Righteous Fire, suffice to say, it's a classic. What is there to say? There's not really too many big changes here. It's just been a solid build. It's comfy. When my arms break, my hands are shot. I've got arthritis and the whole 9 yards. Righteous Fire will be there for me to walk through the game with a single button, maybe one more, to play this with my brain. It's easy. Neuralink, I'm just going to move and click to loot. I don't have to do anything else. There's no popping anything. There's no dodging big things. It's kind of just scooting through the entire game once it's set up. Check out Pohx for, of course, Righteous Fire. Ellie Hit. This is the premier bow build this patch. Gosh, this was supposed to be a quick video. How am I 20 minutes already? Ellie Hit, premier bow skill of the league. You shoot stuff, it dies. If it doesn't die, you probably will. There's good info here. Okay, so don't even complain. Once set up, you're just shooting the screen, right? Everything's getting frozen. You're blasting stuff. This is another one of those builds, like how I described before, where it's very zoom. You need to get out of the way of abilities. Even more so on this, because Deadeye doesn't really have good defense options. You can cope on a lot of stuff, but you're not ever really hitting that point where you're vibing, right? Especially if you're doing some mechanics. So if you're doing farms where things are tanky or have big spikes of damage, it's going to be pretty rough, right? If you're doing like a ghosted rogue exile farm, one of those guys might have a wand that shoots like one proj at you, and it might crit you, and then you die. Especially, right, like if you got only a little bit of evasion rating, if it gets through, you got 3.6k life and a steel skin. You're really just betting on things being frozen, your evade keeping you alive, or them being dead. I don't know. There's not much else to say here. It's a bow build. It's kill or be killed. Molten Strike Zenith is seeing a lot of play rate, and understandably so. Very powerful build. They got the returning projectile enchant, those lucky little B words, on their sword. It is a bit of a slow roll, though, and that is a complaint that I've been seeing frequently and hearing on my stream and on the build Reddit. There's some people who will see a build like this, hear that it's very powerful, and then want to swap to it early. That is definitely not the play. You want to make sure that you have like decent gear set up, that you're ready for the swap, that you have enough strength for the swap, that you have the proper gear, and you're not just like, well, this sword's good enough and I can do this, and right? If you're smart about it, you probably could swap, on a budget. But a lot of people are just trying to like brute force it because they just want to, be on that build and start making upgrades and whatnot. And that's where you're going to see a little bit of a struggle. But even then, it's not really going to be that bad. You're probably just going to be slow, not as tanky as you want. And all that means is you just have to do some lower level strategies to get some currency and to buy some upgrades. But if you wait, get the proper gear, this seems like a great option for those one build a league folks. This is one of those builds that's going to scale really hard, right? It's going to scale slower than your other league starters, but it's a ramper. It's going to scale really, really hard. It's going to be an absolute monster. And if you keep throwing divines at it, it will just keep getting better. And like I said, yeah, the returning projectile enchant is pretty nuts. That stuff is pretty nuts. But this guy's got a nice little setup. He's probably big chilling right now. Triple Ellie Flask. He might be doing some like T17 memes. I'd probably just running through them all. But yeah, Power Siphon Mines. The only complaint I heard about this build was people just not vibing with the playstyle. And so with this build, the thing is, you have to throw your mines a little bit away from yourself, but not so far away from the monster, right? So you got to like line it up a little bit. It didn't sound too bad in my head. It didn't sound too bad from when I was looking at the gameplay, but some people may just want a lot more of a brain off playstyle, something more akin to Hexblast, where you put the mine down and it explodes, right? Put the mine down and it targets the monster for you. Whereas this, you have to position a little bit. And it didn't sound too bad, but it might just not vibe with some people. And, you know, it seems like it has, because that's the big complaint. But this build is very powerful. You get a lot of damage. You get a lot of easy access to defenses, just being Trickster, being Ghost Shroud. You get a ton of evasion rating. You get a bunch of ES. You get a bunch of life. And then you just get some Fizz shift where you can, right? This guy's got endurance charges too. You know, Fizz taking his chaos. That's pretty baller. You know, as long as he's got his chaos for his cat, which he does, right? You just settled on that. And then you just have the whole game open to you. There's 2 ways to get ailment immunity, by the way. I just wanted to point this out. This guy did Torment Essence, so avoid shock on his belt, plus the Abyss Jewel to get avoid shock, and then he did Storm Shroud. And the second guy just got 100% chance to suppress, and then just bought an Ancestral Vision. Some leagues, these jewels are much more expensive, right? Ancestral Vision sometimes is like way more expensive than Storm Shroud, and then other leagues, Storm Shroud's way more expensive. So, you know, depending on how cheap these are, you know, you can kind of just like choose which one to do. You can do the Torment Essence on boots as well for that shock avoid, maybe even other slots, but I always just do boot or belt, plus an Abyss Jewel or the Implicits. But yeah, those are 2 different ways to get ailment immunity. And again, just like, you know, Fizz shift, endurance charge, cap suppression, big HP pools, big evasion rating, and you're probably big chillin' as well. And then last but not least, slams. Slams, Ground Slam and Earth Shatter saw a 5% play rate combined, which is pretty decent. You know, puts it up there with everything else. I don't know where, I think like it was ahead of Power Siphon, below Molten Strike, something like that in the 5%. Jug, I would recommend for people. So I get a question a lot, you know, Berserker, Juggernaut, Slayer. I honestly recommend Jug or Berserker. Jug just to be tanky, and because you can always have that option to go to Berserker later if you would like. But Juggernaut seems like it'd be a great choice for those who don't mind being on the low end of the damage, but being very high on their defense, right? And then Berserker is the exact opposite. So Berserker gets a lot of its damage and its attack speed for free, but then you have to work on your defense with your gear, right? So your upgrades are just shoring the weakness of whichever other one that you chose. And I think Berserker is probably the best choice. I'm going to stop saying probably. It is, okay. Berserker is the best choice for SC Trade, because you can get comfortable enough with your defenses as you upgrade your character. You can get a ton of attack speed from your rage, and you also get double exert, which means you're not instantly chugging through your intimidating cries and then being left with none of that double damage. And then all your other exerts too get chugged through really quickly. And I feel like they almost should in SC Trade, because you don't want to be playing like a low attack rate slam. And it is suboptimal on your damage, right? Because you're going to chug through some exerts or whatever if you are just sitting there, boom, 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 right? But man, it just feels so much better to have a lot of attack speed on your leap slam, on your whatever. And so a lot of what I did on the character was shoring up the weaknesses and trying to make it feel a lot more comfortable. And so one of the ways that I did that was getting let's start with the attack speed. Getting some attack speed nodes. Now, I dropped these at this point of the build because I was feeling fine enough with my new axe base. But these attack speed nodes feel really, really nice. These leech nodes feel pretty good, and you can get some like 25 max recovery. You could get 25 recoup here. This is what I did to solve early echoes, you know, just not feeling too good. You get like that recoup when your leech is filled, and then you get some attack speed there. These axe nodes are really nice for more attack speed. And then just like making sure that you have the rage mastery that gives you rage instantly. So if you are using Berserk on automate or anything like that, then your rage comes back very, very quickly because of all of your auto exerts. Another thing for comfy is charge duration, endurance charge on kill. And one last thing for your links is close combat to give you that 20% more attack speed for leap slam, and not using melee physical and pulverize. Pulverize gives 15 less, melee physical gives 10 less. If you use these, it does make you very slow. But I mean, come on, a pulverize I was comfortable enough using. It has a bunch of AoE. It feels really, really good. And then you definitely you shouldn't be using Fist of War. I was doing it for a little bit, just because I like seeing the guy, and then I get a huge slam or whatever. But you are attacking so much that and so quickly that Fist of War is like not really giving you too much damage. It is kind of nice, like when you get it on the boss or whatever, you just boom. But once you're in the map blasting setup, you definitely probably don't need to do that. One more thing, physical mitigation. I picked up a Light of the Meaning. This was this was probably a little bit excessive, but I kind of just wanted to be a lot more comfortable. And so I scooped this up. Here, let me get rid of the notepad here so we can see everything. I scooped this up, so I'm at like 46k armor. Boom, I'm at 62, with my granite up, which I rolled with gain 3 charges. So if I'm getting hit, I've got my armor, and I've got a lot of it. So 60k armor, plus my endurance charges, plus some physical damage reduction, and fizz shift on my body armor. This is where I felt very, very nice and comfy, especially even with the echoes damage. And then I have like some new armor bases too, right? Obviously getting a lot of armor there. And so we have a lot of physical mitigation. We've got some max res, and if I'm doing like juicy content, I do I do like a triple Ellie flask setup, and I'll respec over to extra max res and all of that as well. I'll swap like one of my rare jewels that has max res out. So you get a lot of max res if you need it. You get a lot of armor and physical damage mitigation if you need it. We need avoidance, so a little bit of evasion rating here on a Jade Flask, right? Going from 0 evade rating to, or evade chance to 27 is huge. That's ginormous, okay? Taking every hit to taking 1 in 4 hits is a very large difference. So something like that is very good. But more than that, we need extra recovery. And so that's where stuff like taking this life regen, and so that I have 800 life regen, because this is going to degen me, right? So this is already taking away like 400 life regen. So getting 800 life regen here feels really, really nice. And more than that, getting some overleech from an Immortal Ambition here. And if you're going to put this in this socket, make sure you get like armor and PDR on this here. And you still would take this for the chance to ignore physical damage reduction, right? You still want that mastery because we don't have access to double cluster. So, you get it from your large cluster, you get it from the mastery. If you don't have this, or if you don't have the large cluster, then you just like take that, right? You got this. And this is how you ignore all physical damage reduction on monsters. And then I get Overleech, and then I get another 70% extra leech right here. And so I've got a ton of leech, and that feels really nice. Because then I have 2,200 of my life and 800 life regen. So I've got around 3k total life recovery per second, right? So more than half of my entire HP pool per second recovering. This is where I felt very comfortable doing a lot of stuff, and I was vibing. I was just chilling. It's really nice. I definitely recommend getting some Overleech. I don't know if I do Petrified Blood, for the Overleech. It feels like I'd have to give up Rallying Cry, Herald of Purity stuff, or, do whatever. And now I'm even weaker to dots, which is something that you're already going to struggle against. And so just getting this stuff and not having to deal with any of that, that was easy enough for me. And it wasn't too many points, and it sure as hell made the build feel a lot more comfortable. Anyways, hopefully this helps you kind of run through some random builds, other league starters and whatnot you might want to play or swap into, or maybe give you some ideas on how to fix some of the problems that you have. Anyways, I'm playing a new build, Eternal Apple Slammer, on stream, doing some anarchy stuff with some ghosted bros and killing some goats. I'll see you guys there. All right, like, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the Twitch stream. Bye.